We have Natalia Zagvozdina with us here, head of IR of X5 Retail Group. It's such a pleasure to have you and do this interview with you. I want to start by saying, first of all, very congratulations to the successful achievement in the emerging EMEA executive team of 2020, in fact. You have obviously across the board from the CEO, CFO, the IROs and the IR programs ranked in first position, which is a fantastic achievement. Congratulations. What do those results mean to you, and how are they received with your management?
First, running the surveys for so many years, and for the kind words of congratulations to our team. It is within X5 seen as a team result indeed. Yes, there are personalities that are named in this survey, but we're a big organization. We're 300,000 people plus. We, in fact, next week will be discussing with the management board the IR strategy for 2021. So it's not that it's left to IR just to do our stuff of reporting and doing 300 plus meetings with investors per year, et cetera, and putting together a nice presentation and running the IR site. It's really about the story that there is to be told. If it was not so fascinating about the company and its results and keeping the leadership, and it's good to be associated with the company that has developed in such a strong leader. And I think it's like 90% of the success, the story itself that there is to be told. And then there are technicalities, of course, like the way in which IR communicates, how granular the information is, how fast the team is to react to ad hoc inquiries that are incoming from the investors, the ideas, the new ideas, how to be proactive in getting to the market the news and messages about us in not just the results call, which are standard and a must-have, but go a little bit beyond, do more thematic things for investors and analysts that allow them to understand how fast the company is changing from within, which directions it's taking, how the consumer is changing. I think there's so many interesting aspects about our times, despite all the challenges, given the technological advancement that we see across the sectors and on so many layers of our day-to-day lives, that it's nothing but a boring food retail story that before was all about the like-for-like or same store growth, the expansion, and the investments and the competitors. And it was going back and forth. And it's not the first time that X5 approached me, not for this position. It was several years ago. The company was in search of a head of strategy. But at that time, it was nothing like today, nothing like the company that is very digital, that is developing online, that is changing its stores, its physical stores, to become so attractive that they really are very appealing to the clients. And at that time, I thought, I really didn't see this like strategic change happening so fast. And I said, no, I'm comfortable where I was. But 3 years ago, when they approached me again, now for the head of IR position, I thought, that is a totally different story. I could be a part of telling this story because the changes were also happening like so fast. And yeah, the transformation was just, in my opinion, spectacular. the pace at which it took place about X5.
Yeah,
And
very
for the
exciting.
management team, for our CFO and CEO who are very actively engaged with the IR activities, and we have their full support. It's really almost like an expectation that there can be nothing but a number one place, because we represent the leader in the sector. I think it doesn't even cross people's mind that it can be different.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
that.
Very, very good, very exciting story, and the business has managed to pivot itself as well over the last year, responding to the crisis as well. What are the specific measures that you have taken from an IR standpoint to continue to engage with the investors and keep them in the loop?
I've noticed before, when I was on the sell side as a research analyst, and then 3 years on the buy side, that the more difficult the markets are and the challenges for the company, the more often you have to be out there speaking with investors to provide more, not really comfort, but maybe to provide assurance that the company knows what it's doing. And it's not why it's relatively easy for X5. I think it has a history of operating in this market for 25 years. We didn't have the COVID pandemic, of course, but we had such kind of massive ups and downs from the macro perspective, from geopolitical aspect of the financial markets, that it's it probably comes with experience also, of understanding what the clients really need. It not necessarily would give them all the answers, but to keep the dialogue. And we actually had an increased number of interaction with the clients during the COVID-related pandemic. And yes, the technology helped. It made it so much easier and more accessible. You don't have to travel. You just have to really just plan it. And yes, Zoom and Teams, etc. We all got used to it, and keeping the presentation on the screen and flipping through the slides. I just think it's the increased level of engagement and frequency of calls. Yes, different angle at which you present the results, or you talk about the operations, safety of employees and customers. You can imagine we kept 17,000 stores open through the lockdown. Unlike many other businesses, we only had the increased demand for our services, not the other way around. And because we actually had, as a business, a tailwind from the pandemic. It was also a part of the story how to an interesting angle for the IR was how to tell the story but manage the GR related risks. You know, we're in this country where the government is very actively involved in monitoring of the prices, monitoring of the business practices, etc. So when we realized that it's actually playing in our favor, because the convenience stores were in such a high demand, we have had an inflow of customers from traditional retail because we could offer higher level of safety standards in our stores, good assortment, no out of stocks, low prices, etc. Then there was a decision about the dividends and size of the dividends, and we saw that the business is generating cash flow that is so healthy that we could increase the dividend payout, and it was in the midst of the lockdown. So this was this a kind of balancing act um, between the higher level government related risks for the business and actually doing what the market expects from you to do as a business, to allocate the capital in the best way, keeping your investments as planned and keeping the dividend distribution that your business can afford.
Yes, I can imagine. And you were just talking about specific areas about safety measures in the stores, but also price adjustments, really looking out for your customers, which really fits into the, ESG narrative, if you like. There are a lot of other initiatives that you have taken. Guide us through your ESG journey, and what do you see in terms of reporting, communication, materiality aspects? What are the challenges, and how do you ensure alignment with investors?
Mm-hmm. When I joined 3 years ago, the ESG as part of the IR reporting was not in existence. We had a small part on our website where some information was provided, but it was really kind of high level, more policies than data books and figures. Then I remember making this presentation to the management board about the importance of ESG, not only for the business, because the business have to kind of earn this license and have this license from the society to operate. We live in such times, but also from the investor perspective. And what surprised me in a very good way, that the board listened and said, we hear you, but and we're doing a lot on the ecological front. We're replacing already the gas engines at our trucks with the hybrid or that are running on gas. We have replaced all the lighting in our stores with LED. We're doing a lot for waste management. We hear you that maybe we're not doing enough, and there is no clear communication about our efforts and our targets. But they told me, we hear you, and we will be doing it not to please the investors, but because we believe it's the right thing to do for the business of our size. And it was quite clear message. And then what we did, we've actually established within X5 on the corporate center level, the ESG department, that not only we hired the consultants, they did the audit of all ESG related procedures and processes that the company was doing. It was just not reported properly, and there were no clear goals set, and these goals were not integrated into the strategy of the business or decision making. They were just happening. Now it's not only a process. We have a strategy. The board, the supervisory board, has approved the ESG strategy in late 2019. This year we started reporting the ESG data book. It's now available on the research website. We've made public all policies and that concern the ESG aspects for social, supply chain, etc., the whole scope. But also, as a company, we have developed the medium-term ESG goals. We've selected based on UN goals, those that are applicable to us and the ones that we can really influence. So we set a goal for CO2 emission reduction on per square meter basis in 3 years and until 2030. So there are longer term targets and aspirations, and there are more immediate short-term goals. Then there is the social responsibility, providing the fair working environment and career opportunities, and caring for the communities. You know that X5 is one of the active partners in Lisa Alert program that helps to find the people that are lost, the elderly, the children. And by the end of this year, we have a goal to train all personnel across 17,000 outlets to be part of this Lisa Alert program that is very popular in Russia and greatly needed. And there's other set of goals with waste management, food waste and hard waste and reusable materials. So we finally have the goals, and now we have a quarterly management board meetings where the ESG colleagues report their achievements, and the supervisory board twice a year hear about the progress on ESG. So it's a massive progress again for us, and we've managed to improve our ESG rankings in 4 most important ESG rankings for us. It's a great also achievement, because we finally, as an IR, there was a push from us to say, guys, we understand the business is doing a lot in this direction. We're not just telling this story right. It's difficult to get our information about our progress. Now the data book is updated twice a year. You can track our progress. You can see where we are against the goals, etc. So indeed, imagine how many, like 70 million Russians live in the neighborhood of our stores. 70 million, 16 million of these people come to our stores every day. Like, we have the direct engagement with half of the population of this country. So we now think more about that part of ESG, how we affect the society also through our offer. Now there is a whole dialogue within X5, how to stay price competitive and remain the mass market and the market leader, but tweak the assortment for it to become healthier, contain less sugars, less additives, less coloring, etc., etc. Where I'm personally very excited about the opportunities our business has on ESG front.
You mentioned at the beginning as well that when you presented it to the board, they were on board in principle, but they wanted to do it not to tick boxes, but to really make sure that it's inherently weaved into the strategy of the business.
Yes.
Share with us a little bit about the governance story at X5 Retail. How is that incorporated and where the focus is there?
ESG and the corporate work, well, we have a fully functioning management board where we have the CEOs. You know, X5 consists of several large, fairly independent businesses. We have convenience stores, we have supermarkets that have different teams, CEOs, CFOs, etc. We have the big data and IT department, the whole business in itself. We get a lot of customer data through our loyalty programs. So all these people that had this operations are part of the management board. The management board is meeting once a week to go through all the, unless it's something like COVID, when they were meeting as emergency on a daily basis. So it's once a week. Then we have the supervisory board. Supervisory board meets 4 times a year. They go through the budgets, the strategy, the kind of big level decisions, for example, approving the transformation of our hypermarket segment, downsizing it, and making the decision on, for example, opening a new format that is hard discounters. So this is a strategic level decisions. And of course, we have and disclose it in our annual report, the structure of the board, the number of independent directors, the committees, the audit, remuneration, etc., etc. There is a certain allocation of duties between the supervisory board members. Whenever we report quarterly results, the head of audit committee on the supervisory board actually reviews the results together with the management, and prepared by IR, reviewed by the management and a dedicated member of the supervisory board. They approve the long-term and short-term incentives for the management, and we have the STI and the LTI kind of going together. Where at the end of the previous LTI program, it runs for 3 years, and the new LTI program will, for the first time in X5's history, will have ESG as a particular metric for the entire company, and it will be the parameter that will consist of several numeric targets for 2023. So it will be linked with the compensation and with the longer term and medium term goals of the company on the ESG front, for instance. When I joined, I was surprised how well functioning as a machine the business was, given its complexity. Because we now have the online, we have the core offline formats, we have the whole program of digitalization of the business that has added like several billion rubles to our EBITDA this year, and it will be over 20 billion in 3 years' time if more processes are automated, more AI and data-driven decisions are made within the commercial function, not only in finance, etc. So it's for the company of its size, it is really working like a machine. And what's also excellent about the company of its size, that all meetings start promptly as they're marked in the calendar. Like there is no dragging around and being late, and otherwise it would not be possible to keep schedules.
Yeah. Fantastic. You've just mentioned actually AI. Obviously, the business X5 Retail is going through a massive digital transformation as well for the future. How does digital impact IR, and what are the tools that you're currently using or using for the future as well that actually make your work so much more effective and efficient?
The area where we don't yet see the direct application of the kind of big data or AI yet, I would say yet. However, we do use our big data colleagues to do the research for us that we use in our client meetings and presentations on the consumer behavior, on the competitive landscape analysis. We now can do that. For example, the program is parsing the sites of all the retailers that we know, food and non-food, to see where the new stores have popped up, opened or closed. And then we ask our colleagues from Big Data department to analyze our store network to see to which new stores which new stores of the competitors affect us more, in which regions, etc. So we use them, but not for the IR function itself. We use their abilities, but not for the IR function. You know, IR is it's quite a relationship driven, it's personality driven business. I think it's difficult to customize it, and I know that some of the investment banks use the AI to actually monitor the wording and the language of the quarterly calls by the management to judge if the dynamics of the business is positive or less positive, if the management may be trying to sound more optimistic than the reality really is. I find it fascinating. I'm afraid we're not that advanced as a company, so we're just doing it really kind of the old school.
Yeah. Well, it obviously still works very well, given the results you've achieved. You've said earlier as well that in terms of IR, a key thing is really to communicate, and to communicate really when the market conditions may be harder. You've obviously had experience as a research analyst for many years and have moved into the IR space now 3 years ago. What are your top tips when it comes to investor relations, having been on both sides, if you like, of the relationship? And what are your must-have tools or structures that you need to have in place to run your IR as effectively as you have?
Mm-hmm. I think it helps a lot if the IR asks any analyst, any 2-3 analysts, to maybe show them their models, to actually see what drivers the analysts have in their financial models. It's easier to then present the results of the company in such a way that it makes it easier for the analysts and investors to digest and make an investment decision based on the story that you are telling. Because it's the storytelling is important nowadays. We know that, all the hype of different kind of things, but then it all comes down to actually putting the physical numbers in the model, and the resulting target price can be higher or lower. I personally find it very helpful to go maybe once a quarter with all covering analysts through their core assumptions in the models, because sometimes they miss the things about us, and sometimes they just their approach is maybe based on broader sector understanding, without getting the full kind of picture to the details that drive, for example, margins, or drive the operating cash flow outlook.
Now we've met obviously you now as a professional. We would like to find out a little bit more you as Natalia as a private person, if we may. We have a few questions for you. The first one is, name a historical figure you would like to meet, and what would you ask them?
Interesting question. I would like to maybe speak with Peter the Great, because of all Russian tsars, I think he has made so many revolutionary or introduced changes to the way of life of Russians. I would like to maybe ask him, is there an ideal picture of how he wanted to see the country and the society? And maybe get to ask him at the point that he saw the results of his doings, and I wonder how close it was to his kind of imagined picture, if he had it in mind.
Yeah, great question. Who's your favorite band or singer?
I love Simply Red.
Okay, very good.
I listen it when I'm up or down, or just in the car. It always lifts the mood. I mean, Mike's singing is just, and his voice as an instrument, to me is, and male voice is quite fascinating. Yeah. I love him and the Norwegian band Aha.
Okay, very good. Which quote from a movie do you use in your daily life?
I'm afraid it would be the Russian movie. There is one that every Russian watches on the 31st of December. It's called The Irony of the Fate. And there is one character that he's in love with this woman, but he is not very, he doesn't have a very good kind of chance of getting her. So he comes and goes and comes and goes. When he knocks on the door again, and his name is Ippolit in Russian. So, it must be Ippolit. We haven't seen him in such a long time. And when something unexpected, not unexpected, but something kind of nagging, and you don't want it repeated, I recall this. Oh, it must be Ippolit. We haven't seen him in such a long time. With my kids, it's a common joke. I have 2 girls, and we actually watched this fairly grown-up movie with them. They're 9, but they love it. They asked me to tell the story about Nadia and Ippolit.
Which book did you read last?
I was again with the girls. There is this book by Astrid Lindgren, Emil from Lönneberg.
Yeah.
about the 6-year-old boy that gets into yeah, into quite a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's such a well-written and well-translated in Russian book. I found it quite pleasurable,
Oh,
the kids reading and
yes.
reading with them, for them.
Yeah, well, as well as Pippi Longstockings, which was
Yes.
fantastic as well.
Yeah.
And please name your objectives or personal resolutions for 2021.
I'm not a kind of a big resolution kind of person. Um, I'm turning 50 this year, and I think that maybe it's age, but it's just spending more time with the family
Yeah,
without any particular objective, just being together,
yeah, yeah.
spending more time, yes, with my husband and with my kids.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, I hope it happens for you in 2021. I guess with certain travel restrictions, it may even be possible.
Yes.
But yeah, but thank you so much, Natalia, for participating. Thank you for the great insights and sharing your view on investor relations and your approach. It's been very, very insightful. Again, congratulations on the fantastic achievements this year.
Thank you.
Long may it continue. And thank you very much for your time.